So, what about the emotional problem of suffering? As I said, this is where we simply cry out from our hearts, God, why are you letting this thing happen or carry on in my life? Well, all I really want to say into relation to that is that throughout the Bible, we're given example after example after example of heroes of the faith, heroes of the Bible, who cried out in precisely the same way to God. Here's Job. He said this, I cry out to you, O God, but you do not answer. I stand up, but you merely look at me. You turn on me ruthlessly with the might of your hand. You attack me. You snatch me up and drive me before the wind. You toss me about in the storm. Surely no one lays a hand on a broken man when he cries for help in his distress. Yet when I hoped for good, evil came. When I looked for light, came darkness. The churning inside me never stops. Or what about King David? My soul is in anguish. How long, O Lord, how long? I'm worn out from groaning. All night long I flood my bed with weeping and drench my couch with tears. My eyes grow weak with sorrow. They fail because of all my woes. Or Habakkuk, the prophet. How long, O Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen? Or cry out to you violence, but you do not save? Why do you make me look at injustice? Why do you tolerate wrong? Or Elijah, another prophet, who has just had so much, he is so fed up, he just says, I have had enough, Lord, take my life. Now, the point I'm trying to make with all this is that being a Christian and being in a relationship with God is not about being unreal with God. In fact, it is about being real with God. And sometimes life really does just stink. And being a Christian is not about spending our time saying, God's fantastic, we praise him all the time, and irrespective of how we feel or what we know is going on in our lives, saying that everything is great. Being a Christian is sometimes being like Elijah, Job, Habakkuk, and David, and just saying, God, this is really rubbish right now, and I am really struggling, and I am angry with you, and I want to know why this is happening. That's the kind of relationship that we can have with God. These examples are given us in the Bible to indicate that we can have that kind of relationship with God. It's not about pretending that everything is fine when everything is not fine. It's about being real with him. A friend of mine who knew this was this guy, Dave Todd. I knew Dave at medical school when we were both students together. And he was training to be a doctor like I was. He was also this really fit rugby player. Fantastic. He had a great future ahead of him as a doctor and possibly even a great future as a rugby player ahead of him. But in third year of medical school, he suffered a massive stroke when he was just 21 at the base of his brain. He was paralyzed completely for weeks. He spent weeks in intensive care. He told me afterwards during that time, he thought he was in hell, because he could literally move nothing apart from his eyelids. But slowly Dave did recover, at least to some extent. And this is a photo just from about a year or so ago. He's in a wheelchair. He can't walk. He can just move one arm enough to be able to kind of point at a keyboard thing so he can communicate. He can't speak clearly. Those who know him well, spend time with him, could work out the words that he's saying. It's much more difficult if you don't know him well. He struggles with eating, with sleeping, with drinking, and so on. But intellectually, Dave is exactly the same guy he was 20 years ago, just as bright as he was then, but trapped in this body that does nothing. And I asked Dave, I said, Dave, what about suffering? Why haven't you lost your Christian faith despite what's happened to you? And this is what Dave said about suffering. I rejected God at first, but eventually softened. The turning point was when it was explained that my anger and frustration were natural human reactions. I don't know why it happened. I have my ideas, but they're just theories. The important thing is that God didn't desert me. First of all, he kept me alive in the early days when it was really touch and go. Then he gave me strength to struggle on through months and years of rehab. I made progress far and away beyond what medical opinion predicted. And he is still with me, helping and guiding me as I muddle through life like anyone else. Again, I can't imagine what it's like to live David's life. I can't imagine how he has retained his faith in God despite what has gone on. But I do wonder if part of the reason he has kept his faith is this reason. It's what I call the wider perspective.